Okay, before I jump in, here is a link. So if you're the kind of person who just likes reading some code to show what we're going to be talking about, this link's pretty good. There's some interesting stuff in there. But yeah, let's jump in. Here's some open source that I maintain. System.js, SingleSpa, Bandicoot, Kremling, OpenMRS, Comunidades Unidas internal. These are some of the open source projects I do. Go check them out. Sharing them with you just because I love them, and would love to see you guys creating issues and contributing. Another random slide here. So if there's one thing in the front-end world that I would say is going to change how we do things in 2020 or 2021, like one of the big things coming, it is import maps. You can just go Google them and look them up. So I'm sharing this just as here's something interesting you can look into. Okay, so let's get into the talk. So I'm going to be sharing 6 things about React as part of this talk. And I have to confess before I start, so I re-implemented React from scratch as part of this talk. Now, not really, like not fully, but that's where we're going to be drawing our 6 items from, is how does React work is going to be part of it. And then it also will show how does that apply to you as someone who would be using React. So yeah, the link that I shared earlier, it has my knockoff, rip-off version of React in there. It's not the kind of thing, I'm not going to even publish it as an open source library. I'm not interested in that at all. But it shows some of the interesting principles of how does React work. Okay. First thing about React, you don't need Create React App. Now, you can use Create React App, and Create React App is great. But I'm going to show you how hard or easy it is to set up a React project. It does not take a colossal effort to set up React. So let me show you 2 ways to set up a React project really quick. Oh, we lost this. Hold on. Yeah, okay. Oh man, this is going to be hard. Here we go. So you can go to CodePen. You put a div into the HTML. You go to Settings. Then you say, in the JavaScript tab, you say we need Babel, React, and React DOM. Okay, now we have React. Okay, we have done it. So yeah, there's a button down there, rendered by React. So if you're wanting to play around with React, there are lots of ways that you can. This is the way that I do pretty regularly. CodePen gets it all set up for you. Let's show you, let's say next level though, like, okay, I'm actually like trying to build this for a company though. I can't have a CodePen be my company. Okay. We have an empty project. We're going to go until we've got a React app. So first, I'm going to npm init. Just hold enter until it's done. This will create a project. Okay. Now I'm going to install React. Let me zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to install React and React DOM. Okay. Now I'm going to install as dev dependencies Webpack, Webpack CLI, Webpack dev server. Okay, this is the most complicated part. You can go look up how to do this. You install about 6 or 7 dependencies. We need to create a file called babelrc. The babelrc file is going to tell Babel to use preset React. Okay? We're going to need a Webpack config file. This is the kind of thing that you can go look up. Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that you can look up. Normally, you don't write it from scratch. Okay, so I just created our main JavaScript file here. Now I'm going to create an HTML file. Oops. Let's see. Okay, that's our HTML file. Let's see, we are going to need. Okay. We're going to have a start script that runs Webpack dev server. We're going to have a build script that runs Webpack. Let's see how we do. Okay. So it did compile, which is good. There it is. Okay. My point in showing this is, so I do consulting with companies, and often they feel like this step is so hard that they're just not going to do it. They're going to farm it out to create React app or something else. Yes, it requires learning some of these things like Babel and Webpack, but the point that I'm trying to show you here is you've got a company now. You've got your Webpack config already finished. It isn't an overwhelming task, the like JavaScript fatigue, tooling fatigue kind of thing. You're not creating that many files, and you don't have to go through a whole bunch of pain just to get a React app set up. Okay. Next thing. Okay. So this one's very interesting. React stole from the DOM, and we all hate the DOM. So the DOM is complicated. The DOM is hard to work with. And React got inspiration from how the DOM works when it designed its own API. Let me show you exactly what I mean. So if we take our file, if we take our file and we compile it, so on the left is our code, on the right is the compiled code. Notice react.createElement. So react.createElement is actually very similar to how the DOM works. So how the DOM works is you do like var div equals document.createElement div. And now we've got a div. How React works is we do react.createElement div, or react.createElement button. And it goes further than this. So with React, we've got props. Let's show some props. Okay. So with React, we put class name equals hi, and it gets compiled down into an object that has a class name of hi on it. This is actually just how the DOM works too. Let me show you. We've got our div. We can do div.className equals hi, and now our div will have the class equals hi on it. So these are called JavaScript properties, these here, that can go onto DOM elements. So what React is doing is it's taking your React props and it's putting them onto the DOM element as properties. It doesn't mess with attributes almost ever, only for ARIA and for custom elements. But it just plops all of your props, that's a funny phrase, onto your DOM element. So this is essentially what React is doing. Is you call react.createElement, it calls document.createElement. You give it an object of props, it puts those props onto the DOM element. That's the main thing that React is doing. Okay. Tidbit number 3. Okay, who here has heard of the term virtual DOM? Yeah, everyone. Okay, or many. Okay, so the virtual DOM is an interesting thing. I think it's something that there's some misinformation about. It's like mystical. We've got the DOM, we've got the shadow DOM, and the virtual DOM. We've got lots of DOMs. And so I'm going to show you what is the virtual DOM on like a mechanical level. We'll see it in the browser console. And then talk about how that, like, why do people talk about the virtual DOM? Why is that like a thing that matters for React? Okay. So the virtual DOM is actually just all of your JSX. That's what the virtual DOM is. Like, so the simplest way of describing would be, okay, I bet you've never done this before. So you can store your JSX in a variable. That's one thing. The other thing is the result of JSX is what's called React elements, and React elements are the virtual DOM. So let's look at what is this virtual DOM. Okay, so the virtual DOM is an object, and that's it. So that's the main thing I want to say about this, is that the virtual DOM is an object. And so what React is doing is taking plain JavaScript objects. It's not DOM. It's not like fancy anything. It is just an object. And then it is turning this object into real DOM. So virtual DOM is an object representing what you want in the real DOM. React's job is to create what you want in the real DOM from your virtual DOM. So there is one part of this that I want to call out, which is the type. So you can see here the type is button. DOM elements also have a type. And so this is like a one-to-one correlation. The props also, it just puts all of your React props as properties on the DOM element. What I'm getting at here is that the virtual DOM is an object with all your HTML in it, and then React creates real DOM from it. And I just wanted to demystify that because I think there are misconceptions about what is the virtual DOM doing for me, or what, like I chose React because it's got the virtual DOM. It's really just the internals of how React creates DOM. They called it something fancy. Okay. Next thing is, so who here has used hooks? Most. Okay, so if you've used hooks, you've probably used useState. That's maybe the most popular hook. useState relies on the call order in order to work. And let me show you what I mean by that. So we're going to switch over here. So we have a React component now, and we're calling useState twice. The way that React knows that the first one is the count and the second one is the dog URL is the order in which you call them. So if we were from render to switch which order we called them with, it wouldn't work. Let me try to describe better what I mean. So, okay. It's time to show what I was talking about earlier. I created a fake version of React that implements most or much of React's API. I called it Yoshi. And here's the useState function. So this isn't the React source code itself, but it shows you how is it working. So you get the index. The index means how many times have they called useState so far? Is this the 0th time, first time, second time, third time, fourth time? That's the index. And then you just use that index to keep track of which one is which. So for those of you who are familiar with the rules of hooks, the rules of hooks are, what they do is they ensure that this works. This only works if you follow the rules of hooks. If you don't know what the rules of hooks are, go look them up, because if you break them, your code won't work. But yeah, I wanted to show this. For both useState and for useEffect, the order in which you call useState and useEffect really matters. Okay, last one, or no, this is the second to last one, number 5. So, okay, we're going to define the term reconciler. That's the big term on this slide. So a reconciler is a function that is given virtual DOM and produces real DOM. So we now know what virtual DOM is. It's an object, and it needs to produce real DOM. Let me show you what a reconciler could look like. So that function at the top that says reconcile, I don't want you guys to look at the actual code itself might be interesting if you want to go above and beyond. But all that I want you to look at is line 12 at the very top. So reconcile is given a Preact element or virtual DOM. It is given a container DOM element to put itself into and an index. So its job is to take that virtual DOM and then turn it into real DOM. We'll see. So here we call document.createElement, stuff like that. This is the kind of thing, if you're interested, you can go look on the GitHub repo for more detail. But the point is, the reconciler is the thing that takes the virtual DOM and turns it into actual DOM. And what I had in the slide was that this is what we like about React. This is what makes writing UIs easy, is that we don't have to worry about updating the DOM. So most of us don't deal with the DOM directly very often. And there are good reasons why. It can get complicated. And so the main thing that React is doing for us is it is dealing with the DOM on our behalf, taking these virtual DOM nodes and turning them into real DOM nodes. Okay, last thing here. So this is one that I've heard for a while, is how many people know what Preact is? Okay, so Preact versus React. Preact is a knockoff version of React. And the reason why Preact is appealing is because the React source code is about 150 kilobytes of JavaScript code, and the Preact source code is about 5. And so the idea is, well, if your users don't have to download 150 kilobytes, if they can download just 5 kilobytes, that's faster. The problem is that that sort of is an incomplete way of looking at the performance. So what I wanted to go at here is React is a very fast framework, very, very fast. And there are sort of two things to look at when talking about performance. The first one is initial load, and then the second one is everything after that. And so Preact is good, or Preact is better at initial load, but React is better after that. Concurrent mode, for example, with React is not duplicated in Preact and makes your application significantly faster. So like Preact is not definitively more performant than React, and React is not necessarily more performant or less performant than Preact. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. But I just wanted to call this out that when you choose to use React, or Preact, you're not necessarily like saving bytes or like you're not saving performance in a real way, depending on how you choose. Most of the time, you go look at benchmarks; they're about the same for a lot of things. Okay. So yeah, time to wrap up here. I did want to just post a couple links here. Here's my Twitter and my GitHub. I do consulting related to React and other things. And yeah, one very last thing I wanted to share is I do run a nonprofit. It's called Just Utah Coders. We build software for the government here in Utah and for other nonprofits, specifically within the criminal justice reform area. And so if that's something that's interesting to you, helping out either as a volunteer or financially or something else, yeah, message me on Twitter or come talk to me. We've got some very exciting things going on with the nonprofit and could use a lot of help. So thank you very much.